So, let's get this show started. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Hopefully, I look a little less nervous today. That'll be fantastic. But this is tea time, and we are going to be doing uh, the calculator from the documentation for React. And I am T, or Tiana, or Rubber Duck, or whatever other name that I've come up with over the last few years. There's a bunch of them. Um, but yeah, so let's jump into this and ooh, this is like right in my face. Can I go this way? No, this way. Yes, that's better. Okay, so I have 3 screens, so this is kind of like a mess. Trying to get everything situated so that I know how to do things and stuff. But fortunately, I'm still a junior dev, so I don't have to know what I'm doing all the time, and that is fantastic. But continuing on, table of contents, because everybody likes documentation. Um, Hello World, reactjs.org, calculator, AMA, and wrapping up. So, first of all, Hello World. And if you guys watched from before the last stream, building a channel around reverse engineering applications where we go in and check out what others have built to see if we can understand what's going on and follow the data, hopefully, and not get lost. We'll probably get lost, but that's where GoogleFu comes in, and we'll be able to hopefully navigate our way out of it. So that might be nice. Yeah, you guys have read all this before, but it's here for those that are new to this channel to read over and pause if you would like. And so let's move on. So reactjs.org, which is where all the documentation lives for React, and I've misspelling, so that's fantastic. Spelled it right once and wrong again. It's fine. We're going to be looking into the calculator app that is provided, and then we'll have the Ask Me About It and any questions that you have along the way. I will also be checking out chat to see if there's anybody around that has questions, and if you do have a question, feel free to drop it into chat. I'll answer it to the best of my ability, and if I cannot answer it right off the bat, then we'll dig into GoogleFu and figure it out. And then wrapping up is wrapping up, I guess. That's pretty self-explanatory, I guess. So that's on the next slide. Yes, calculator. So there is make that bigger. Yes. There's the link to the GitHub for the calculator, which we will be pulling from. Little bit of info. It's created with Created React app, and there is a guide for it. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into trying it at that address. And then we'll do npm install and npm start and all of that good stuff. It's on the next page. Oh, wrapping up. Yeah, we don't want to look at that yet because we're not done. So we're going to do this and exit out of there. Minimize that. Oh, good. Here it is. So this is reactjs.org, not or, because, you know, spelling. English is hard and whatnot. Does pineapple go on pizza? It most certainly does. Ooh, look, I can even show it. Look, it does. It does go on pizza. And if you don't think so, then you need to, like, try it again, I guess. Yeah. And so I have another card that I did not set up. It was supposed to be a ticker thingy. So while I work on this for a second, how is everyone doing today? Question. Comments. To the best of my ability. And for those questions that I cannot answer. Have my GoogleFu. Oh, good. Is that? Add banner and show. Boom! That was nifty. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that up so that way I don't have to keep repeating myself and annoying y'all. So, comments. Oh, you know, Python. Python is terrible. And Jacob. Uh, Still have to rewatch this later. How's my day? My day is fantastic. I spent like 4 hours coaching today, and I helped some people, which was nice. And then I watched some Star Trek because I'm a nerd, and rewatching Discovery because I want to see the new season so badly that I decided to relive the experience. How is your day? So, okay, that's there. That's there. Fantastic. Yes, example projects. So as you see, there's a whole bunch of sample projects here. Calculator, emoji search, snapshot, and you could probably guess why I picked the calculator, and that's because it's the top one on the list. Pretty simple. Um, and then there's this complete apps, which I haven't really checked out much, but we might in a later episode. Maybe once we get through all of these, we'll check out the complete app and then figure out what's going on there. Alright, so that's the example. More stuff. Cool. Let's go over to the repo, which you can get to by clicking on this link right here. Pull up the repo as well. Let's do the README, because READMEs are important. This one's kind of small, but it's okay. It's alright. There's a guide here, which we'll check out in a second. And to get this up and going, npm install and npm start. So that should be relatively straightforward. The file has moved here. So we're going down a rabbit hole. So that's fantastic. Let's see. Sounds like a productive day. I've been rewatching all the Star Wars. Star Wars! Ooh, that is fantastic. Which one are you on? Which ones have you watched and where are you headed to next? And more importantly, are you doing it chronologically per the verse or chronologically per the release date? Because I know that's like debated out there on which one you should do. But yeah, we'll figure that out soon. But this one's a little bit more in depth. All right, so npm start, throw it up on localhost 3000, npm test. Honestly, I've never ran npm test. Maybe we will to see what that's all about. Maybe not. Run build. Now this one I have used in order to send it to deployment, which I'm still rusty at. It blows my mind, but it's okay. Run eject. Still have not used this. Maybe we can. Maybe we'll break it and then try to fix it. And a whole bunch of stuff. Oh look, deployment. Hey, that's cool. Maybe we'll check that out. Anyway, so that is what we're doing. And in order to make this happen, we copy this. And then we pull up our terminal and git clone, shift insert, which is how you paste things inside this terminal. And we're cloning. And we're cloned. Attack of the Clones. Ha, Star Wars. Anyway, so let's change directory into calculator. And we'll do code period, which means I want to open up VS Code right here. Or over there, which is also cool too. Yep, there's that. And let's pull this up. So, we have our public, our source, GitHub stuff, logo, package lock, and package JSON, README. Let's check out the README. There are two ways you can open up a README. One is the bare file, and also if you want to make it look pretty, you can open up the preview, which I always found awesome. Chronological. See, you heard it here, folks. You gotta watch it in chronological order. Return of the Jedi, and you're almost done. That is fantastic. So, cool. Let's... Oh, I need to rewatch Star Wars. Maybe once I'm done with Star Trek. Who knows? Okay, so this says that we need to npm install and npm start. So let's pull up our terminal and we'll do npm install. Is it gonna work? Oh, it's working. That is fantastic. And what that does is it sets this folder up so that way it can run all the other stuff that is necessary in order to make things happen. Python shall not best you today. You know what? It bests me every day, and I don't like Python. But there will come a day whenever I do run through Python projects. It's just not today, and especially not for my first show. Okay, so if anybody has ever downloaded other repos, you will see this right here. It means it's old and that it has not been updated to the most recent version of things and stuff. And what I mean by that is the last thing this was updated, or last time that this was updated, was 2 years ago. So yeah, there is going to be things that aren't up to date, but if I'm not mistaken, I can do npm start and it will run. If not, maybe we can fix it. Yeah? No? Hey! We have a calculator. How nifty. Alright, so 2 plus 2 equals 4. And it even works. It computes. So yeah, now we have a calculator. I don't like how big it is, but that's fine, I guess. So that is the README. The two ways you can see a README. And let's dive into the top file in all node projects are index. So importing React DOM. There's no router. There's only one page, so there's no need for a router. Import app from component apps. Okay. CSS to make it look pretty. And ribbon. That must be this thing up here. Yep. Cool. For those of you that don't know, the root is actually in this public folder, which you don't really want to go into other than understanding where everything starts. And this is where everything lives, inside of this div that is labeled ID root. So we're going to go back to index and let's trace this. Let's see, let's go to our app, and our app lives in components / app. So components and app. Alright, and here we have imported React, we've imported display, a button panel, a calculate, which is from Logic, and the app CSS. And what we have here is we're exporting default a class app that extends React component. That sounds like something that we should Google. Let's see. Anything gonna pop up here? Nope. Extends app? Nope. How about this? I guess not. Okay, so extends React component. Let's copy that. Oops. Okay. Let's go here and here. Google. React.component. React lets you define components as classes or functions. Components are defined as classes, currently provide more features which are described in detail on this page. Okay, so the subclass is called render, which is what information it sends to the page. So that's everything that is your JSX lives inside of here, and that is what's going to be displayed on the page. And then you have your life cycles, your constructor, component did mount, which is being phased out because of hooks with use effect, updating stuff, unmounting. The thing about component did mount, or is it did mount? It is did mount. You have to unmount it or else there's an issue with that. Memory leak, I think? I don't know. It needs to be unmounted when you mount it. Some error handling. Component did catch. Let's see, let's check that out. Takes in an error and some info. And the component that throws, created by app, in the error boundary, in a div, in an app. Okay, so it just reports information that it catches. Well, that's fun. And more reference stuff. Okay, let's go back to our app. Sounds like we have an idea of what this does. There's either a class component or a function component. Cool. We have some state, which holds the total, the next, and the operation. Their default is null, which means that nothing is here, but something will be here. It's a way to say something will be here soon. Stand by. And then you have your handle click function, taking in the button name. No, not taking in the button name. Wait, yes, taking in the button name with your arrow function. And it's saying this dot set state, and then it's going to calculate a whole bunch of stuff with the state and the button name. I'm assuming the button name means whatever these buttons are, because these are all buttons. Ooh. And yep, button, all kinds of buttons, and a div. Yeah, cool. Okay, let's go back. And then inside of our render, and like I said before, everything that's inside of here is actually what is returned onto the page and how you see stuff. So inside our return is a div with a class name component, which is defined in our CSS. And then this has a display component and a button panel component. So this is always a pain to understand at first. So this refers to everything inside of these curly brackets, and set state is calling in a function that will point towards this dot state, which is right here. So this dot state. Fantastic. And then closing everything out, and that's the end of our app. So what shall we look into next? Let's go check out the display. Okay, since it's first on the list. So in our display, we're bringing in React, and we're bringing in prop types, and we're also bringing in CSS. So this is another class component, and it's called display, and it extends React component, which is just basic functionality that you can build upon. Static prop types. I'm not sure what that is, so let's check it out. Control C, go back to our browser and Google. Static prop types. Oh, the Stack Overflow. Why static prop types? Maybe we'll have an answer. Static was not part of the last generation of JavaScript, which is ES5, which is why you won't find it on older documentation. However, it and the rest of ES6 class syntax now supports all major browsers except Internet Explorer because they're slow. Actually, I think they died. I think it's Edge now. So, not only are they late to the party, but they're not even going to make it ever again. So that's cool. And if you use transpiler like Babel, you can use it in any browser. It's be declared the class itself and not the instance of the class if you use stateless components. Okay. Well, now that's interesting. So this has it inside, right? And this is inside, but that is bad. And you want it outside of the function? Or maybe you do want it inside of the function. Okay, cool. We learned something. There is a time and a place for it to be inside and outside the function. Outside the function, inside the class. Okay. So that's good to remember. Outside the function, inside the class. Let's go back to our code. What else can we Google? We have our render and return. We have a div. Now, for those that don't know, and you have to return one HTML/JSX element at a time, but inside of that one element, for example, our div here, you can have as many of these as you want. So you can have like 100 of them, and it is still valid. But if you take one of these and move it outside, oops, save. Where's my linter? JavaScript? Nope. It's format. Maybe? I think my linter is broken. So that's fantastic. And view command enter. Is it Emmet? No, it's not Emmet. ESLint. How do I turn it on? Fix all auto-fixable probables. Ooh, it does not like me. I'll have to figure out how to turn on ESLint. Anyway, usually it gives you a whole bunch of errors right here, and it'll yell at you for a really long time. But we're not going to do that. And voila. And save. So that's interesting. Cool. Okay, so this.props.value, which is pointing to this dot. Where's props? Are they in here? Prop types. I'm guessing they're the same thing. But this.props.value, which is right here. So this is pointing to that value on line 8. And it's stored inside of a div. So yeah, and I think component display. We're going to go back over to our page and what is this? Component display. So it's talking about this right here. And this.props.value is this value right here. So if we change it and open up our console, we can potentially see that it changes the value. So let's do console this dot props dot value. Let's save that. And are we gonna have anything? It doesn't like that. Maybe if we move it inside here. Aha! So it's not broken anymore. And here we go. We have a 0. And if we change it to 8, now we have an 8. Change it to 89, now we have an 89. Yep. So, like I said, anything that goes to the browser, well, I didn't say that. Anything that goes to the browser is inside of your render, and anything that is seen on the browser is inside of your return. So that's a good distinction. That's good to know. Yeah, and then we can delete this, save that, and that'll refresh and do its thing. So, I don't think we have any questions about this page. Nope, no questions. And so, we're going to move back to our app. And we've finished display. Next is our button panel, which will go here. Oh, there's a lot here to go through. Fantastic. So we're importing button from button. We're importing React and prop types, which are down here. We're also importing some CSS, which will make it look pretty. Our class extends React component and it's named button panel. Fun fact, you want to name your class or function the same as your folder to make it easier. It is not mandatory, it is just good. It's good. Yes. And then we have our static prop types, and inside of here we have our click handler that handles our prop types.function. And where is that function? Might be on the next level up. Maybe, potentially. No? Okay, well, moving on. We have our handle click. Takes in a button name. And this .props.click handler, which is, where's our click handler? Oh, here it is. Our click handler is taking in a button name, which is either a value or plus or minus, equals, X, whole bunch of stuff. And then we're going inside of our render return. And of course, everything inside of our return is what we're going to see. We have a div, and as you can see, we have one div wrapping everything that is being returned to the page, and inside of there, we have a whole bunch of stuff. Inside of our first div, which is going to be our top row, right here, right? Maybe. Yep, AC. This row right here is these 4 buttons. And they have a name, and every time that someone clicks on this button from the click handler, it's going to take that value and send it through our button name, which is going to be sent through our click handler, which is going to be sent through our prop types function. Hey, that makes a lot of sense. Now, okay. There is one difference between this and the rest of them, which is orange. And that is these orange buttons right here, which means that this is a attribute on this button, which we will now go look at. So, In our button, we're importing React, prop types, and CSS. This is also going to be a class that extends React component. We have prop types that have a name, orange, a wide, and a click handler. The name is a string, orange, and wide are a boolean, true or false, and a click handler is a function. Inside of our handle click, it's saying this .props.click handler is going to pull from this .props.name. So it's going to pass this into this function and do something and handle the click. Then you have a render, and here you have a constant of a class name. So the class name is why that orange is in there. So yeah, we have a ternary here, and ternary is basically a true or false statement. Right after the question mark is if it's true, it's going to display a string name orange, which will then put in a class name of orange. Else, if it's false, then it's going to put in a empty string. And the same goes for this wide function, or this wide ternary. It's either going to put in wide if it's true, or a empty string if it's not. And then it's going to return a div with class name.join on the space and trim it. Class name.join on the space. Why is there a space? Not exactly sure. Maybe we'll look into it. But inside of this div, there's a button, has an on click, and this .props.name inside of there is pulling a name from right there. So yeah, this .handle click is pulling this function, and that's our button. So going back to the button panel, we have a whole bunch of those buttons that are passed into this class of the button panel, and has the fourth one in each div has a class name of orange, which turns the color. So, and cool. So, we've gone through the button panel, and the display, which is everything inside of the app, if I'm not mistaken. So display, button panel, and button. Okay, so let's find something interesting about this. This is the value is this.state.next, which is null, or, which is what this double pike means, this.state.total, which is here, which is null, or it's 0. So this, or this, or 0. 0 is what it starts out with. Next is the numbers that you put into it. So let's see. Starts out with 0. Next would be 8. And then total plus 8 equals 16. So those values are all stored right here inside of this state until it's needed. Okay, and anything interesting about this that I can talk about that is not related to the object or the logic? You know, I think we're pretty good here. But let's dive into the logic, because who doesn't like logic? Okay, I guess calculate is going to be first. Oh, this one has some instructions in it. So importing big from big.js, which I don't see. Oh, node modules. Okay, that's cool. Operate which is here, and isNumber, which is here. So we're importing those two files. And let's read what they've given us. So given a button name and a calculator data object, return an updated calculator data object. The calculator data object contains a total, which is a string, next, which is a string, and an operation, which is a string. Total is the running total. Next is the number, the next number to be operated on. So, and then the operation string is the plus, minus, multiplication, division, all of that good stuff. And, oh, this one's kind of long. Okay, cool. It'll allow me to talk for a while. So that's fantastic. Export default function calculate. So here we have export default class app extends react.component, but in here we don't need this to be a class, or it can't be a class. I don't think it can be. So we're just exporting a function called calculate. Calculate takes in an object and a button name, which we have seen being passed around in our app, which is, move that over. So our object, which is this.state, and our button name, which is our button name, which is passed in from our handle click, which is activated by our click handler. Cool. So that's a bunch of fun stuff. Move that back over here to make this bigger, and I hope it's big enough. I should probably check on that. It looks big enough. Let me know in the comments if it's not big enough, and I'll make it bigger. While I wait on that, we're going to continue on. So if button name equals AC, a string with AC in it. So this is triple equals means it needs to be exactly this or ignore me, basically. Then it's going to return the total, next, and operation back to default, which is null. So that's cool. That's how you reset everything. So in our next if statement, so if isNumber button name. This is probably a good time to check out what isNumber is. So let's go do that. So we're going to open up isNumber. Oh, this one's relatively short. So we're exporting this function isNumber, passing in an item. Inside of here, we're going to do a little bit of regex. If you don't know what regex is, GoogleFu is going to be your best friend. And there's also regex101.com, I think. And you should go check that out. .test, which means that it's going to return true or false, I believe. It's going to pop up for me. Returns a Boolean value that indicates whether or not a pattern exists in a search string. Cool. So I was right. So it's going to take in the item. It's going to test it against this regex string for numbers 0 through 9 plus stuff. And it's going to either give you true or false. And how that's helpful is if isNumber is true, then it's going to do this and a whole bunch of other stuff. Else, it's going to go somewhere else. Else, it's going to go on to the next if. If it's false, it's going to go on to the next if statement. So if it is true, though, it's going to take in the button name, and if it's equal to 0 and object.next is equal to 0, then it's going to return nothing. Cool. If there is an operation, update next. So if object.operation, which is here, so if this is not null, it's going to take that operation and next and return object.next plus button name, or else it's going to return next equals button name. That makes most sense, I guess. So it's either going to return the object plus the button name or just the button name, which is a number. Okay, cool. That makes sense. And then inside of here, so we have if 0, then it's going to do nothing. If operation, it's going to do that. If there is no operation, update the next and clear the value. So if object.next is true, the constant next is being set equal to object.next is equal to 0, then it's going to do, if that's true, then it's going to put in the button name. If it is not true, it's going to take the next object and add it to the button name. And then it's going to return next and the total to null. I think that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, throw it in chat. We'll figure it out. So, after that, after you finish all of these if statements, it's going to return next, given the button name, and total equals null. So, that is what's going to happen if it's a number. Now, if it is not a number, and we're going on to this block of code, right? Yep. Fun fact, if you are having an error that's syntax, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be your curly braces, and you've either deleted one or added one where you shouldn't have. And the easiest way to check that is to click on them and make sure they have a buddy. And if you find one that doesn't have a buddy, for example, find one that doesn't have a buddy. Yep, this one doesn't have a buddy, which means that you have one too many, or I have one too many, but I don't want one too many. And so we're back to normal. Eventually I'll get this ES slit thing figured out. So this if statement is looking for the percentage sign. And if the object.operation and object.next, which is these up here, is true, then the result is going to have the operate function run. And it's going to take in our total, our next, and our operation. And now seems like a really good time to check out that operation function. And let's open that up. Ooh, this one's big. And it's also big. So, it's going to export a default function operate. It's going to take in number 1 and number 2. Sounds like Star Trek. And the operation. Yeah. So the first constant 1 is running through the big function, which returns a new instance of a big number object. Okay. Just returns, it's an object maker thing. Number 1 or 0. Because it starts out with 0. The second one is taking in number 2 and figuring out what the operation is. So if the operation is division or multiplication, then it's going to return 1 or 0. So that is a cool way of saying if it's this one, it's going to return this. Or if it's this one, it's going to return this, I believe. Yeah. So continuing on, then if 1 maintains the current value in the case of null, so if the operation is a plus, we're going to return 1.plus, taking in that number and returning a string. So 1 plus 2 is 3, but it won't return as a number. It's going to return as a string, which will be displayed on our calculator. Same goes for subtraction. multiplication and division. Well, subtraction and multiplication. Division is going to do something interesting. And big has these additional functions that handles that logic. So that's cool. But if it is a division, and if 2 equals 0, you cannot divide by 0. Error, which will pop up a little box, which, let's go see if that works. So 16 divided by 0. Yeah, that doesn't look like an error box. I mean, it's given us an error, but shouldn't it alert? Refresh. So 7 divided by 0 equals... This might be one of those things that were... no, it's not there. That were too old and needs to be updated. I wonder if I turn this around. So 0 divided by 8 equals. No? 0 divided by 9. Interesting. 9 divided by 0. Well, it looks like it is not picking up that 0, or if 2 equals 0. I wonder why not. Alert, function. Console.log. Let's save that and refresh. 9 divided by 0. Nope, it really just does not like that. It's skipping right over it. Well, if we have time and you guys still want to hang out, then we'll come back and check this out. So Control Z, 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 alert, save this, that, and to do equals fix this. Save. My to-do's not working either. I don't know what's going on. Oh, this may have something to do with the update. Interesting. Not digging into that, but it's changed it, so I can see it if we need to come back to this. Coming back to our calculate function, and now that we understand, at least on the high level, of what this operation button is doing, we're passing in the total, the next, and the operation, and it's either going to, and then it's going to return the total equals big result dot div big with a string of 100 and dot to string. So big dot div to string. I'm not exactly sure what that is saying, but okay. And then it's setting next to null and operation to null. Might need to come back to that later too. I guess it's returning a number that is 100. Okay. So if object.next is true, then it's going to return the big function again with the object.next, and then a div with big and 100, and making it a string. And if it is false for both of these, then it's going to return nothing. Okay. And continuing on. We might want to come look at this next. To do. Check this out. We'll save that. Okay. And then, I wonder if my extensions are messed up. Potentially. So if the button is equal to a period, then, and if the object.next is true, ignore a period if the next number already has one. So that prevents it from doing 3 period or 3.0 or 3.2 or something like that. So it's an error boundary, making sure that that doesn't happen. And if it doesn't already have a period, then it'll put one in there. And it'll return the number plus a period. Otherwise, if you're starting off with like 0.5, then it'll return 0. Whatever your next number is. So there's all of that fun stuff. And then we're going to move on to if the button is equal to a equal sign. If the object.next and the object.operation is true, then it's going to return that operate function that we were just checking out, passing in the total and the next and the operation, and setting next to null and operation to null because we don't need it no more. Else, if you hit the equal sign and there's nothing in there, then it's going to return nothing. If there's nothing in the total and next, then it's just going to do nothing. And all right, so continuing on to the plus minus, which is the positive and negative, I think. Yeah, turning it positive from a positive number to a negative and so forth. If the object.next is true, then it's going to return next set to -1 times parse float, taking in the number and turning it into a string. Parse float is a floating point number, which means 3 point blah 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 blah, however many blahs there are, like pi. And then it is passing in that number, multiplying it by -1, and turning it into a string to be displayed on the web page. And if total is true, then it's going to return the total doing that same thing, except that it's doing it on a total side instead of the next side. And if neither of those are true, then it's going to return nothing. Alright, so the button must be an operation. Okay. When the user presses an operation button without having entered a number first, do nothing. Which is what all of that is talking about. Which is commented out. I didn't comment it out, but apparently it doesn't need to be there anymore because of some other function that is handling that error. So maybe we'll find it. Maybe we already have. Not sure. So we'll continue on. Maybe we'll stumble upon it, and that'll be cool. The user pressed an operation button, and there is an existing operation. So let's say if you do 3 plus minus 2, because you decided you don't want to add it, you want to subtract 2, which will give you the 1. It will take in that operation and run the new operation with the new, or run the new operate function with the new operation, and set next to null, and set the operation to the button name. Alright, so no operation yet, but the user has typed one. The user hasn't typed a number yet, just save the operation. So if object.next is not false, because that returns true. So if it's false or not false, yeah. If object.next is not false, then you're going to return the operation with the button name. Man, that's complicated. I mean, that's a mouthful. It's a very few lines of code, but it is a mouthful to actually read out. And what that means is, if there's something in there, return the button name into the operation. Save the operation and shift next into total. So we're going to return the object.next, which is here. We're going to pull from object.next, set it to the total, set next to null, and set the button operation name, or button name for the operation. And yeah, now we're down to the end of this file. That's nifty. So we can close that and close that. Any questions? I don't see any questions. And moving on. The other folders or files in here, we're going to close that up, is we have some CSS folders, files. Close up our logic. And let's see what's in index. Okay. Wanted to make sure it wasn't ridiculously long because CSS can be ridiculously long. So HTML is targeting the entire page, setting the height to 100% and the font size to 10 pixels, which is adjusting how big it is inside of the current screen. Setting the body to have a background of black. No margin, no padding, setting the font, the height, the root. So that's an interesting one. The root is coming from our public folder and setting its height to 100%. So you have the HTML, which is from the public folder, and then you have the root, which is inside of the HTML, and then your body is inside of the root. And then at media screens, so this is making it responsive. So when it goes down to mobile, it's turning off the fork ribbon. And if it's adjusting the font size depending on the height and the width of 400 pixels is the cutoff there. After there, it's 30 pixels. Making it bigger to 40 pixels, and then making it bigger to 50 pixels. So as the screen gets bigger, the font size gets bigger. That's what that's saying. And so that's the index. Let's go to the app. So display flex. If you don't know about flex, that's a really cool thing to look into and figure out because it's super powerful. So display flex. It's in a column form. It's wrapping with 100% height. And let's check out this button. We're going to go down alphabetically now. So display is inline flex. Again, if you want to look into flex, that's fantastic and you will not be disappointed. Anything else that's interesting? Pseudoselectors. That's another thing that you want to be interested in because the more pseudoselectors you know, the more powerful you'll be and the force will be with you. Promise. That orange that I was talking about earlier on the buttons, that's where this is set up so whenever the component button dot orange, which means it has a class of orange on it, um, then it's going to change the background color to orange and the text color to white. So we've finally gotten to that part. All right, let's move on to the button panel. Two things on here. So component button panel, and then you have the component button panel with this in here and a div, which means that this is targeting everything within the component button panel, but this is targeting the divs within the component button panel that is one layer deep. Maybe I'll do a video on that. Who knows? If I'm successful, you will have all the things, I promise, because I like to talk, as you can tell. Yeah, so let's go on to our display CSS, and it's doing the same thing, pretty much. Okay. Actually, I think that's all the files in this project. We're coming up on, well, we just passed an hour, so that's doing pretty good. And then package lock.json, which has a lot of stuff in it, and very few times will you actually get in here and change stuff. Leave that to your senior devs. You don't want to touch this file because you'll break everything. So we're not going to touch this file because we're junior devs. That's what we do. But this file, the package lock.json, gives you a whole bunch of interesting information. So like the name of the app, the version it's on, its license. This has a home page, your dev dependencies. So it's whenever you're in development, it's has Chai and GitHub Pages and Prettier and React scripts. And then it's regular dependencies, which is Big.js, the fork ribbon CSS, the React DOM. Scripts we'll get into whenever we have larger projects. Just know that they are very useful whenever you don't want to type things over and over again that are like 40 characters long. Makes it super handy. And yeah, so that is the project. That is the calculator from reactjs.org. So let's pull up this, I think. Yeah, we'll present and wrapping up. Oh yeah, all of the credits and stuff. Let's do this banner and that one. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind throwing a vote in there, whether it's up or down or go away and disappear forever, it's a thing. Then hit that subscribe button if you want to say it again. The next time I'm live to my face, because that's how you'll know that I'm live. And then if you hit that bell, it will make sure that you are reminded that I'm live, so that way you can, throw that thumbs up or thumbs down to my face, which is fantastic. Today is Tuesday. We started at 5. Has potential to go till 8 if there is enough content. Next day I'll be around is on Thursday. Same thing. Saturday, don't worry about Saturday because honestly I have so much stuff going on. I probably won't have time. I don't know. I do a lot and I apologize, but you guys have me on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 8. And so yeah. Now that we've taken care of all of that stuff, get that to go away, that to go away, and yep, ask me anything, or ask me about it. That's what it means. Honestly, I was going to try to say it earlier, but I forgot what it meant when I typed it, and so I had to wait until now to figure that out. Ask me about it. Ask me anything about what we just went through, and I will do my best to answer those questions, and we'll give this a couple minutes. And then I'm going to make this bigger so that way you guys get to see all of me and stuff. Looks like I have one viewer, so that's thanks for hanging in there with me. Although it might be me. I don't know. Not exactly sure how that works. I know with Twitch, that's how it worked. Is if I was looking at my uh, software, it counted me as a viewer. So I don't know if anybody's actually there. All right. So I think that's going to be it for our show. Thank you for coming and hanging out and watching stuff and talking to me a little bit. And if you're watching this down the road, well, I hope it's a good road for you. And I will see you guys on Thursday with the next project, which will probably be from that reactjs.org website. The next one down, which I cannot remember what it is right now, but I'll figure it out. I promise. Um, so, yeah, I'll see you guys next time.